What are coordination agreements? If your nation is working on a law in child and family services, or is considering doing so, you may be wondering, what is a coordination agreement? The federal law on Indigenous Child and Family Services, which is known as C-92, or an act respecting First Nation, Inuit, and Métis children, youth, and families, refers to coordination agreements. This video briefly discusses what they are. A coordination agreement is an agreement made between a First Nation, the federal government, and usually also a provincial or territorial government. The purpose of the agreement is to support the First Nation in exercising their jurisdiction. How does it support them? By providing funding for the implementation of their law and by dealing with other coordination issues that may arise during implementation. The agreement is not a self-government agreement because a binding recognition of Indigenous jurisdiction is already provided by federal law. However, it has some similarities to a sectoral self-government agreement, such as addressing how the different parties will coordinate and work together in the exercise of their jurisdiction. Like a self-government agreement, a coordination agreement usually provides high-level, principled terms on funding and sets up the creation of a fiscal agreement that renews more frequently based on those principles. This lets specific amounts of implementation funding be determined on a periodic basis while allowing the coordination agreement itself to last longer. Does a coordination agreement give the federal or provincial governments approval of a First Nations law? No, not at all. The authority to make your nation's law is within your nation alone. No one else gets to approve it. The negotiation of a coordination agreement does not mean opening up your law to negotiation with other governments. However, the negotiations will involve helping other governments understand your law and thinking through practical situations. Sometimes First Nations have decided to make technical amendments to their laws as a result of things they considered during negotiations. And there is a connection between coordination agreements and how a First Nations law will be treated in Canadian law. Based on the Federal Act, a First Nations law will also have the force of law as federal law, in addition to its own inherent force if the First Nation has either made a coordination agreement or tried to do so for at least a year. This helps provide clarity that the Indigenous law will override other laws. At the time this video was made, there have been 2 coordination agreements made in Ontario, plus 5 others across Canada. A number of others are in negotiation. It is totally up to each First Nation to decide if a coordination agreement is something they want to pursue. We support and congratulate all the nations who are reclaiming their jurisdictions in their own ways.